How does language arts capture her heart? When all through the class from the first day it starts, she don't see her language and she don't see her arts. She wonders how the class even got that name when she already figured out the rules of the game. When it comes to her language and her arts, LA stands for make your culture less audible, limited access, keep your lingo absent, because there's something about your dialect that's less articulate. How did she receive this message? Because the teachers never heard of Kendrick. Even though he won a Pulitzer, he hasn't gained a single mention in this curriculum. Rather, she sent a detention for drumming beats on tables in this course, when in her hood of birth, break beats and 808s remain a driving force behind a renaissance of metaphors, behind a rebirth of ghetto shorties channeling traumas, and word of wisdoms from big mamas in the sonnets of poetic verse. But somehow here her poems have a lesser worth. Even though the poems of Nipsey Hussle are streamed at a rate William Wordsworth could never have dreamed, tens of millions of fans, Birmingham to Bethlehem, don't disrupt distinctions between primitive and advanced, between high arts and the low. Rap is forced to sneak in through the back door of modern art museums and institutions, but maybe it's 'cause modern music is viewed in terms of entertainment, not intellectual endeavor, and thus becomes elective always, prerequisite never. It seems that our species may need reorientation. The zebra finch don't separate music from education. From parent to chick, songs are passed through generations. He learns melodic stylings of his father's variation, paying close attention to the tweets of his father until one day he's old enough to find a baby mama. The creativity of the tweets in their repertoire are judged by a mate as a proxy for how smart they are. For the zebrafinch, music is a primary lesson. Researchers study their brains with EKG measures and learn that while they're in their nest fast asleep, they're mentally rehearsing the arrangements of their tweets. How do I know whether to marry this zebrafinch? Only if their songs strike delicate equilibrium between conforming to rhythms passed on for millennia and creative interpolations unmatched by anyone. You see, the finch must become both a master of history and a producer of novelty and creativity. But it's not just the finch whose survival depends on transmission of hymns through the generations. In Africa, they call them the griot or the jolly, singing storytellers from Senegal to Mali, a chain of transmission linking artists to their teachers that reaches back even before the period of Jesus. The jolly plays the role of historian, thousand-year genealogies recorded in memory, recited in epic poems, stories, hymns, like the Epic of Sundiata, transmitted from jolly to jolly to jolly, with glory since the 13th century in vocal performances, preserving historical records, lessons, and common sense. When the king's about to repeat yesterday's mistakes, the jollies who resides at his side warning him. Through her proverbs and lyrics, the past is born again, like the firmament at 5 a.m. Written verse oral can be a false dichotomy. Both coexist within language competency. The speech is the right hand, the text is the left. How else can they emerge cleansed and fresh without washing one another? I want to express caution to my brothers and sisters who subtly recommend amputation of right hands, devaluing skills like verbatim memorization, recitation, stereotypes of primitive incantations lacking sophistication. Are there hierarchies to language arts in Western civilization? With oral genres construed as less intelligent, and even less so when they think it's relevant to pay attention to rhythm and tonality, literary devices of emotion and soul which must be suppressed if objectivity's the goal, the low. Lower I descend into the diaphragm, the more I feel outside the discipline. But many times it's the jolly class, the singers, who play the role of linguistic innovators. Think about the poet Erykah Badu and her collaborator, Georgia Ann Muldrew. 1 month after Obama's inauguration, they released a ballad by the name of Master Teacher, which featured a word that would become eventually extensively cemented in cultural memory. But before this adjective was in 1 million Twitter tweets, it was chanted in a hypnotic ascending melody. I stay woke 44 times. I stay woke, a pledge for black folk. I stay woke, I know Obama's president, but I stay woke. I hear colorblind rhetoric, but I stay woke. Does the invention of the word woke make Erica a jolly, dispersing new language through songs and stories? In Bambara language, jolly has a dual meaning. It also means blood because the storyteller is streaming through society like blood courses through the body, the circulation of information in the form of stories. They could either circulate pathogenic illness or community nutrients, intelligence, and wellness. Within a year of the release of the album, you hear woke spoke from grocery store aisle 1 to loud grunts in barbershops. Lingo passed around blunts by shorties with gold fronts and halter tops. A proverb that eloquently summed it up and sounded eerily similar to prayers that were sung to us as younger guys, as we were bounced on our mother's thighs, as she spoke to us through tear-flooded eyes. May you be protected from the devious lullabies, wooing you to slumber in nationalist mythologies and culturally hegemonic ideologies that have long served to normalize inequality. Stay woke. How does language arts capture her heart? When white language styles define what is smart, when a teacher claims to be woke, but he won't even chart the origin of that term back to its start. How does she not feel a wave of frustration when Erykah Badu receives no citations? When On the Dead Homies, No Cap, and Gang Gang are dismissed in this class under the label of slang? When she's almost sure that each of these sayings are the most descriptive vocab she's found to explain heartfelt divinity and loyalty claims, slang. A label so often applied to her dialect, she wonders from whence it came. How far back does this word slang originate? It's hard to settle on a specific date. Was it the late 19th century when slang was prohibited from the Oxford English Dictionary? Or before in 1756 when slang was defined by Oxford English as the language that is suitable for the low and disreputable? The language that is suitable for the low and disreputable. We are the people on the low. Yes, them's facts. But our reputations, we would like to take them back. We are confused why you so casually use low income as a synonym for low impact. There's 1.6 million words on Urban Dictionary that have meanings whether or not you heard them. The meaning of this verbiage, the significance of its worthiness is not derived from them, possessing Latin origins. How can language arts capture her heart? When she starts to see her language and see her arts. When we, the educators from the global South, show that we cherish expressions from the mouths of our fellow Southerners. And we build classrooms that respect and treasure her. Connection to oral traditions, when youngins have chances to communicate in the genres that indigenously germinate and sprout in the valleys that they call home. So they can harvest the sacred poems, proverbs, stories, and vernaculars cultivated by dusty-foot philosophers. For me, this is students learning hip-hop verse, but for you, this may be putting another dialect first. Both are means for young jollies to mold their own voice while sampling stories formerly told, using linguistic tools to carry out their own goals, reimagining their communities, identities, and roles. Bring on the future where we cease the norm of seeing written versus oral as either ors. Instead, we should weave in between the forms and even bring music back into the core as a fundamental element of communication. Neither the jolly nor the finch separate music from education. We must expand our notion of writing utensils as not just Microsoft Word, paper, and pencils, but microphones and digital audio workstations. So youth become editors of letters and vibrations. And LA stops standing for linguistic assimilation and instead, low frequency amplification, turning up the bass and keeping language arts on the low.